The tension on the command bridge of the Stellar Imperator was palpable, though tinged with a veneer of smugness. The flagship of the Xylar Alliance had just reported the successful suppression of what they termed stubborn resistance on Target Planet 7, or, as the locals called it, Earth. Grand Admiral Theron, his bioluminescent spots glowing a confident amber, reviewed the casualty reports alongside Tactical Commander Lyra. The 3rd Vanguard Legion performed adequately, given the circumstances, Theron said, his four-fingered hand gesturing to the holographic display that showed the conquered beachhead, a small strip of coastline that had been their first landing zone. Though I must admit, the losses are concerning. Lyra nodded, her own bioluminescence shifting toward a more cautious blue. 70% casualties to secure such a small strategic area is unprecedented in our conquest history, Admiral. The 3rd Vanguard was our most elite fighting force. The enemy employed barbaric but puzzlingly effective tactics, Theron mused, zooming in on the battlefield imagery. See how they utilized the natural cover? How they seemed to anticipate our standard formations. Remarkable adaptation for a primitive species. Lyra studied the tactical playback. They coordinated despite our communication jammers. They targeted weak points in our armor with uncanny precision. This suggests advanced military thinking. She paused. We must have faced their planetary defense specialists, their elite, which means, Theron said with renewed confidence, that we've eliminated their most formidable defenders already. The remainder of the conquest should be considerably easier. The bridge doors slid open with a soft hiss. Intelligence Officer Kale entered, carrying a datapad. His usually composed demeanor seemed disturbed, his bioluminescent patterns flickering in the Xylar equivalent of agitation. Grand Admiral, Commander Lyra, he said, his voice strained. I've completed the preliminary battlefield analysis. There's something you need to see immediately. Theron gestured impatiently. Present your findings, Officer Kale. Kale activated the central holographic display. It showed magnified images of human weapons recovered from the battlefield. First, their weaponry. These are not advanced energy weapons or even guided projectiles. They're rudimentary, chemically propelled metallic projectiles. Bullets, they call them. Technology that predates our great unification by millennia. Impossible, Lyra whispered. Those primitive weapons tore through our shock troops. Only at weak points in our armor, Kale clarified. But yes, in their protective gear, he displayed images of human body armor, offers virtually no protection against energy weapons. It's designed to stop only their own primitive projectiles. Theron's bioluminescence shifted toward a confused yellow. If their technology is so primitive, then how? There's more, Kale interrupted, an almost unheard-of breach of protocol that underscored the gravity of his report. We've analyzed their communication devices, unit structure, and recovered identification badges. I had our linguists work on translating their communications. Kale took a breath, his spots now pulsing with unmistakable alarm. The force we fought, the one that decimated our elite 3rd Vanguard, was not their special forces. It wasn't even their regular military. The bridge fell silent. Theron and Lyra exchanged glances. What were they, then? Theron finally asked. According to our analysis, we faced something called a Coastal Recon Unit, or CRE-9. From what we can determine, it's a part-time militia force tasked with coastal patrol and disaster response. They receive only basic training and minimal equipment. They aren't even part of Earth's standing military forces. Silence blanketed the command bridge. Theron's bioluminescent spots faded to an ashen gray. Lyra's turned from confused yellow to the deep purple of mounting horror. Hey, part-time patrol unit, Lyra stammered. Not special forces? Kale simply nodded, his own spots now matching Lyra's in their alarmed purple hue. By the eternal void, whispered Theron. What have we gotten ourselves into? Sergeant Anna Petrova squinted against the late afternoon sun, reflecting off the Pacific Ocean. The salt-tinged breeze ruffled her short brown hair as she scanned the coastline through binoculars. Behind her, The other 5 members of Coastal Recon Unit 9 were going about their routine duties at their small observation post nestled in the rocky cliffs. "Anything interesting out there, Sarge?" asked Ben Carter, the unit's communications and tech specialist. He was hunched over their outdated radio equipment, trying to clear up some interference that had been plaguing them all morning. "Just the usual," Petrova replied, lowering her binoculars. At 42, she was the oldest and most experienced member of Sirius 9, with 15 years of part-time service. In civilian life, she was a high school physics teacher. Fishing boat about 2 miles out, probably the Hansons. Some tourists on the beach to the south. "I still can't figure out this interference," Carter muttered. The lanky, bespectacled 30-year-old pushed his glasses up his nose in frustration. When not serving his weekend duty with Sirius 9, Carter worked IT support for a local credit union. "It's like nothing I've ever seen before. It's on all frequencies." Private First Class Maya Singh looked up from where she was cleaning her standard-issue rifle. At 24, she was the youngest of the unit and by far the best shot. In civilian life, she was completing her master's degree in environmental science. "Maybe it's the solar flares," she suggested. "The news mentioned something about unusual solar activity this week." "Maybe," Carter replied, unconvinced. "But this pattern seems almost deliberate." Petrova was about to respond when she noticed something strange in the sky, a distortion like heat waves, but in a perfect circular pattern. She raised her binoculars again. "What the hell is that?" she murmured. The distortion grew larger, and then suddenly, as if a veil had been lifted, an enormous object materialized in the sky. It was metallic, with an alien geometric design that made Petrova's eyes hurt trying to comprehend it. "Carter, get on the radio. Now," she barked, but even as she said it, she knew it would be futile. The interference, now obviously jamming, had intensified. The massive ship, because what else could it be, hung in the air for a moment, and then smaller craft began to detach from it, descending rapidly toward the coast. "Everyone combat positions," Petrova ordered, pushing aside her disbelief and focusing on her training. "Singh, get on the MG. Johnson, Rodriguez, establish a perimeter. Carter, keep trying that radio. Davis, get the emergency flares ready." As her team scrambled to follow orders, Petrova felt a cold knot of fear in her stomach. They were a 6-person unit equipped for monitoring smuggling activity and assisting in search and rescue operations, not for repelling an invasion from space. But they were also the only military presence for 20 miles in any direction. The first alien craft landed on the beach below, about half a mile from their position. A ramp extended, and figures emerged. Humanoid, but definitely not human, with mottled blue-gray skin and strange patterns of light visible even at this distance. "What do we do, Sarge?" Singh asked, her voice steady despite the situation. Petrova took a deep breath. "We defend our position. We hold until relief arrives, or until we can't hold anymore. Standard defensive protocol." She managed a grim smile. "Just like the drills, except the opposition force is a bit more exotic than usual." The aliens were advancing up the coastal path now, moving in tight, disciplined formations. They carried what were obviously weapons, sleek devices that occasionally emitted flashes of energy at wildlife or vegetation, instantly vaporizing anything they hit. "They're coming right toward us," Carter said. "Do you think they know we're here?" "Doesn't matter," Petrova replied. "They will soon enough. Singh, when they get within range, target the lead elements. Aim for joints or what looks like sensory equipment. Eyes, head. The rest of us will provide covering fire. Carter, keep trying to break through that jamming." As the alien force approached, Petrova assessed their tactical situation. The Sirius 9 observation post was built into a natural rock formation, offering excellent cover and a commanding view of the approaches. They had limited ammunition, but good fields of fire. The narrow path leading up to their position was a natural bottleneck. "Maybe we can use the terrain to our advantage," she thought aloud. "Johnson, Rodriguez, see those loose rocks above the path? When I give the signal, use your rifles to trigger a small landslide. That should break up their formation." Singh had settled behind the unit's single light machine gun, an outdated model, but meticulously maintained. Range is about 300 meters and closing Sarge. Wait for my command, Petrova said, watching the aliens advance. They moved with an almost mechanical precision, confident and seemingly unconcerned about potential resistance. They're overconfident, she realized. They don't expect to fight. When the alien force reached the 200-meter mark, Petrova gave the order. Now, Singh opened fire with a machine gun, targeting the lead alien's helmet. To everyone's surprise, the bullets seemed to penetrate whatever material it was made of. The alien fell, and momentary confusion rippled through their ranks. Johnson, Rodriguez, the rocks. The two reservists fired at the unstable rock formation above the path. Several large boulders came crashing down, scattering the alien formation and crushing at least two of them. The aliens recovered quickly, however, and returned fire. Beams of energy scorched the rocks around the CRU-9 position, superheating the stone and sending dangerous fragments flying. Keep your heads down, Petrova shouted over the chaos. Controlled bursts conserve ammo. For the next hour, the small unit fought with desperate intensity. They learned quickly that the aliens' armor was vulnerable at the joints and that their helmet sensors could be damaged by direct hits. They used their knowledge of the terrain to maximum advantage, triggering more rock slides and using the natural caves and formations for hit-and-run attacks. But they were hopelessly outmatched. Davis was the first to fall, hit by an energy beam that left a smoking hole through his chest. Rodriguez was next, caught in the open during an attempt to flank the alien position. We're down to our last magazines, Johnson reported grimly, bleeding from a shrapnel wound on his forehead. Carter had abandoned the useless radio and taken up Davis's rifle. I think I figured out their communication pattern, he said. They're using some kind of quantum encryption, but there's a pattern to the frequency shifts. If I had better equipment, I might be able to jam them back. Singh continued to provide suppressing fire, her face streaked with sweat and dirt. We've taken down at least 20 of them, she reported. But they keep coming. Petrova nodded. They had fought well beyond any reasonable expectation, but it was clear they couldn't hold much longer. The aliens had adapted to their tactics and were now using energy shields to advance more safely. They were methodically tightening the noose. I have an idea, Petrova said. I spotted what looks like their command position about 100 meters beyond the main force. If we can take that out, it might throw them into enough confusion for some of us to break through and get word to headquarters. That's suicide, Sarge, Carter said quietly. Maybe, she admitted, but sitting here is certain death. She looked at each of her remaining team members. I'm not ordering anyone to come with me. Hell with that, Singh said, checking her rifle. I'm in. Johnson and Carter exchanged glances, then nodded. Last magazines in, conserve for targeted shots only, Petrova ordered. On my mark, we move down the eastern passage, using the rock formations for cover. Johnson takes point, I'm second, Singh third, Carter brings up the rear. Questions? There were none. Let's go. They made it almost halfway to the alien command position before they were spotted. Energy beams cut through the air around them. Johnson went down first, screaming as his leg was severed at the knee. Keep moving, Petrova shouted. They were close enough now to see the alien commander, taller than the others, with more elaborate patterns of light on its body. Singh managed to get a shot off that hit something important on the commander's equipment, causing a bright flash of light. But that was their last success. Multiple energy beams found their targets. Petrova felt a searing pain in her side as she was hit. Carter cried out behind her. Singh got off one more shot before something that looked like a ball of electricity hit her, and she collapsed convulsing. Petrova's last conscious thought before darkness took her was a peculiar one: pride. They had done their duty, fought a hopeless fight, and done far better than anyone could have expected. Whatever happened next, they had shown these aliens that Earth wouldn't fall easily. Consciousness returned to Petrova in waves. First came pain, a dull throb in her side where she'd been hit. Then awareness of her surroundings. She was lying on a cold, metallic surface. The air smelled strange, sterile, but with an alien undertone she couldn't identify. When she finally managed to open her eyes, she found herself in what could only be described as a laboratory. She was restrained by some kind of energy field that glowed faintly blue. Looking to her sides, she saw Carter and Singh similarly restrained on adjacent tables. They appeared unconscious but alive. The room was filled with unfamiliar equipment. The walls had a strange, almost organic quality to them, with pulsating lights running in complex patterns. There were no windows, but a large view screen on one wall showed what had to be Earth from orbit. "We're on their ship," she realized with a jolt of fear and awe. A door slid open, and two aliens entered. Petrova recognized one as the commander from the battlefield, the taller one with the complex light patterns. The other was slimmer, with different coloration and what looked like specialized equipment attached to its suit. They approached, studying her with what she interpreted as cautious interest. The smaller alien held up a device that projected a field of light over her. It made a series of clicking and humming sounds. To her shock, the device then spoke in accented but understandable English. "You are awake. Good. We have questions. You will answer." Petrova remained silent, trying to assess the situation. Standard protocol for captured personnel: name, rank, service number. Nothing more. The commander spoke, and the device translated. "I am Tactical Commander Lyra. This is Intelligence Officer Kale. You fought our forces on your planet. We wish to understand." Sergeant Anna Petrova, Coastal Recon Unit 9, service number 87542A, she replied flatly. The aliens exchanged looks, their bioluminescent patterns shifting colors. "What is Coastal Recon Unit?" asked Kale through the translator. "What is its function in your military structure?" Petrova hesitated. Strictly speaking, revealing the nature of her unit wasn't giving away vital information. CRU units weren't classified. "We're a part-time reserve unit," she finally said. "We patrol the coastline, watch for smugglers, assist in search and rescue operations, respond to natural disasters when needed." The aliens' light patterns flickered rapidly. Something about this answer seemed to disturb them. "Part-time?" Lyra asked. "Explain this concept." "We're not full-time military," Petrova explained. "We have civilian jobs. We train 1 weekend per month and 2 weeks per year unless activated for emergency duty." More flickering lights between the aliens. Kale adjusted something on his device. "You are attempting deception," Lyra accused. "Your unit defeated many of our elite warriors. This is not possible for part-time soldiers." Petrova almost laughed despite the situation. "We got lucky, and we know our terrain. And we didn't defeat you. We're here, aren't we? We just held you off longer than you expected." At that moment, Carter began to stir on the next table. His eyes fluttered open, confusion evident on his face. "Sarge," he mumbled. "Where?" "Oh." His eyes widened as he took in their alien captors. "Stay calm, Carter," Petrova advised. "They're asking questions." Kale moved to Carter's table. "You are the communications specialist," he stated. "We observed your attempts to counter our jamming technologies." Carter blinked in surprise. Yeah, I couldn't break through, though. Your quantum encryption is beyond anything I've ever seen." "Yet you recognize the pattern," Kale pressed. "Ow!" Carter shrugged as best he could while restrained. "I work in IT security in civilian life. Pattern recognition is part of the job. But trust me, I barely scratched the surface of your tech." The aliens conferred again, their lights now pulsing in what Petrova interpreted as alarm. "What is your military rank and specialization?" Lyra asked Carter. "Corporal Ben Carter, Communications Specialist, CRU 9, service number 92165B," he recited. Like Sergeant Petrova said, "We're just a coastal recon unit. Part-time reservists." Lyra made a gesture, and a holographic display appeared, showing footage of their battle. "Your tactics were sophisticated. You adapted to our technologies and exploited weaknesses we did not know existed. This indicates advanced training." "Basic infantry tactics," Petrova replied. "Use terrain to your advantage, identify enemy weaknesses, conserve ammunition, maintain unit cohesion. It's just standard training." Singh was now awake as well, silently taking in the situation with remarkable composure. What about your weapons specialist? Kale asked, indicating Singh. Her accuracy was exceptional. Private First Class Maya Singh. She introduced herself calmly. And I hunt in civilian life. Been shooting since I was 12. The aliens' patterns were now rapidly shifting between colors. Kale approached a console and initiated what appeared to be a scanning procedure. Beams of light passed over each of the humans in sequence. These scans confirm no genetic enhancements, Kale reported to Lyra. No technological implants. Psychological patterns consistent with basic military training, not elite special forces conditioning. Lyra's lights dimmed noticeably. They are telling the truth. They are militia. The implication of this realization seemed to hit both aliens simultaneously. If their elite forces had struggled against what amounted to a part-time border patrol unit, what would happen if they faced Earth's actual military? Tell us about your actual military forces, Lyra demanded. Your professional soldiers. Their capabilities. Their numbers. Petrova considered carefully. She was no expert on global military strength, but she knew enough basics and realized that honesty might actually work in Earth's favor here. Our professional forces are better equipped, better trained, with vastly more experience than us, she said truthfully. Marine Corps, Special Forces, Army Rangers, Navy SEALs, they train continuously in all environments and combat scenarios. Their equipment? Kale pressed. Carter jumped in. Much more advanced than what we had. Precision-guided weapons, drone. Systems, satellite communications, cyber warfare capabilities. We had basic rifles and one light machine gun. Singh added, and they conduct massive joint training exercises. Thousands of troops, hundreds of aircraft and vessels, combined arms operations. This was all public information, but Petrova could see it was having the desired effect. The aliens' luminescent patterns had shifted to what she now recognized as their equivalent of fear. How many of these professional soldiers does your planet possess? Lyra asked, her translator conveying a slight tremor. Millions, Petrova replied truthfully, across all nations, and billions more civilians who could be mobilized if necessary. Kale turned to Lyra, speaking in their own language without waiting for translation. The only word Petrova caught through the translator before it was shut off was something that sounded like catastrophic. Lyra seemed to compose herself, her patterns stabilizing somewhat. We will verify this information, she stated. Then both aliens left the room, leaving the three humans alone. Did that just happen? Carter whispered once they were gone. Did we just convince alien invaders that they're outmatched by suggesting that the rest of our military is tougher than us? I think so, Petrova replied, a hint of grim satisfaction in her voice. And the best part is, we didn't even lie. What happens now? Singh asked. They're not just going to let us go. I don't know, Petrova admitted. But I got the impression they're seriously reconsidering their invasion plans. And that's something. The command center of the Stellar Imperator hummed with tense activity. Grand Admiral Theron presided over an emergency council of the ship's senior officers. The holographic display at the center of the room showed the latest intelligence from Earth. Visual feeds from cloaked observation drones, intercepted communications, and analysis of military movements. This is unprecedented, Theron stated, his bioluminescence a troubled indigo. Since our engagement with the Coastal Recon Unit and the capture of their personnel, the planet has mobilized on a scale and with a speed we did not anticipate. The display shifted to show military bases across Earth's surface lighting up with activity. Aircraft launching, naval vessels deploying, ground forces mobilizing. They've united, Fleet Commander Zorg noted, his patterns glowing a defiant red. Despite our intelligence indicating deep political divisions, these humans have set aside their differences remarkably quickly. Their global communication networks are saturated with news of our presence, reported Kale. Rather than panic, as we've seen on other worlds, their response has been coordinated resistance. They're already referring to the captured CRU, 9 unit as heroes, martyrs who bloodied the nose of the invaders. A temporary emotional response, Zord dismissed. we still possess overwhelming technological superiority. One successful skirmish by primitive part-time soldiers does not change the strategic balance. I would have agreed with you yesterday, Commander Zorg, Lyra countered. But there's more. She gestured, and the display changed again. We're detecting energy signatures inconsistent with our initial technological assessment of this planet. They appear to be activating or deploying defensive systems that our preliminary scans classified as theoretical or experimental. What kind of systems? Theron asked sharply. Orbital defense platforms. Anti-spacecraft weapons with potential energy yields far beyond what we anticipated. And most concerning, Lyra paused. Evidence of rapid technological adaptation. They've already recovered fragments of our technology from the battlefield and are attempting to reverse engineer it. This changes nothing, Zorg insisted, though his confidence seemed forced now. We have conquered worlds more advanced than this. We should proceed with the invasion as planned, with adjusted tactics based on what we've learned. At what cost? Theron asked quietly. The 3rd Vanguard Legion, our elite shock troops, suffered 70% casualties against a 6-person militia unit. What will happen when they face these Marines, or special forces the prisoners described? When they encounter the full might of a unified planet that is rapidly adapting to our presence? The command center fell silent as the implications sank in. The Xylar Alliance had built its interstellar empire through careful target selection, choosing worlds that were either technologically primitive or philosophically opposed to violence, worlds that could be conquered quickly with minimal losses. They had never faced a species that combined Earth's technological ingenuity with its apparent willingness, even eagerness, to fight. There is another factor to consider, Kale added reluctantly. The psychological impact on our forces. Word has spread throughout the fleet about the CRU-9 engagement. Our troops are disturbed by what they've heard. The concept of being defeated by part-time soldiers has affected morale. Zorg's patterns flashed angrily. Soldiers follow orders. Their feelings are irrelevant. Not when those feelings affect combat performance, Lyra countered. We're seeing signs of hesitation, uncertainty. And if our troops face heavy initial losses against Earth's professional military, that hesitation could turn to fear. Theron absorbed this information silently, his patterns shifting through colors as he considered the options. Finally, he spoke. The Xylar Alliance has not survived for millennia by being reckless. We choose our battles wisely. He straightened to his full height. I am ordering a strategic withdrawal from this solar system for comprehensive threat reassessment. Zorg's patterns flashed in protest. Grand Admiral, this is unprecedented. We have never retreated. We have never faced a species quite like this one, Theron replied firmly. The official reason will be detection of anomalous tactical factors requiring detailed analysis. No mention of defeat or retreat. And the prisoners? Lyra asked. The 3 CRU-9 personnel? Eliminate them, Zorg suggested immediately. They know too much about our capabilities. And make martyrs of them? Kale countered. Further inflame the humans' resistance? No, I believe we should return them. Return them. Zorg was incredulous. They'll report everything they've seen. They will, Theron agreed. And perhaps that's for the best. They will report our strength, yes, but also our willingness to return prisoners unharmed. It may serve us well in the future if we decide on alternative approaches to this planet. After further debate, the decision was made. The 3 humans would be returned via a small shuttle, dropped near one of Earth's space stations as the Xylar fleet began its withdrawal. Make the preparations, Theron ordered. We depart in 12 hours. As the command staff dispersed to carry out their orders, a palpable sense of relief mixed with wounded pride permeated the ship. The Stellar Imperator, flagship of a mighty interstellar empire, was retreating, not from a superior force or a crushing defeat, but from the threat posed by a single planet whose potential for resistance had been catastrophically underestimated. The shuttle bay was quiet as Petrova, Carter, and Singh were led toward a small transport vessel. Their wounds had been treated with advanced medical technology that had left barely any scars, and they had been provided with clean versions of their uniforms. Lyra and Kale supervised the transfer personally. "You are being returned to your planet," Lyra informed them through the translator. "As a gesture of reconsideration." "You're leaving?" Petrova asked, unable to hide her surprise. "We are conducting a strategic withdrawal for further assessment," Kale replied carefully. "Your species has demonstrated unexpected qualities." Carter couldn't suppress a slight smile. "You mean we scared you?" The alien's patterns flickered in what might have been indignation, but they didn't deny it. "Your shuttle is programmed to approach your International Space Station," Lyra continued. "It will identify itself as carrying returned personnel. Once you are safely aboard their facility, the shuttle will self-destruct harmlessly." "Why are you doing this?" Singh asked. "Why not just kill us?" Kale's patterns shifted to a thoughtful blue. "Because there may come a time when our civilizations meet again, and it would be preferable if that meeting did not begin with the memory of executed prisoners." "Smart," Petrova acknowledged. "So what happens now?" "You just leave, and that's it." "For now," Lyra confirmed. "What happens in the future depends on many factors, including how your world develops in our absence." As they boarded the shuttle, Carter turned back. "Just so you know, next time, you won't be facing part-time coastal patrols. Something to think about." The shuttle doors closed, and minutes later, they were launched into space, watching through a view screen as the massive Xylar ships grew smaller behind them, their hulls glimmering in the sunlight as they prepared to depart Earth's solar system. "Do you think they'll be back?" Singh asked quietly. "Maybe," Petrova replied, "but not anytime soon, and we'll be ready." Sergeant Anna Petrova stood uncomfortably at attention in her dress uniform, flanked by Corporal Carter and Private First Class Singh, similarly attired. Before them, a panel of high-ranking military officers from multiple nations sat behind a long table, reviewing documents and occasionally glancing up at the three reservists. 6 months had passed since their return to Earth. 6 months of debriefings, medical examinations, and technological reverse engineering based on what they had seen aboard the alien vessel. 6 months during which the world had changed dramatically. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Maxwell, looked up from his papers. "Sergeant Petrova, Corporal Carter, Private Singh, the information you provided has been invaluable to Earth's defense preparations. Your first-hand account of Xylar capabilities, tactics, and psychology has helped shape our entire strategic response." "Thank you, sir," Petrova replied formally. "We were just doing our duty." "Your duty may have saved our planet from conquest," said the Russian general seated next to Maxwell. "The panel has unanimously recommended you all for your nation's highest military honors." Carter shifted uncomfortably. "Permission to speak freely, sir." "Granted," Maxwell said. "With all due respect, sir, we got our asses kicked. We just lasted longer than the aliens expected. I'm not sure that merits the highest honors." A Chinese admiral smiled slightly. "Sometimes, Corporal, lasting longer than expected is exactly what makes the difference between defeat and victory." The Xylar came expecting an easy conquest. They left questioning whether they could win at all. General Maxwell nodded in agreement. "Furthermore, your decision to provide accurate information about Earth's military capabilities during your captivity was tactically brilliant. You told the truth in a way that served our strategic interests perfectly." "What happens now, sir?" Singh asked. "With Earth's defenses, I mean." Maxwell exchanged glances with the other officers before responding. "The United Planetary Defense Force continues to expand. Every nation has contributed resources, personnel, and technology. The reverse engineering of Xylar tech recovered from the battlefield has already yielded significant advances in energy weapons, shield technology, and FTL communications. And the space program has been completely militarized," added the French Air Force general. "We've established the first orbital defense platforms based partly on Xylar designs. The first true space warships are under construction, all because of a part-time coastal patrol unit," mused the Indian admiral with a slight smile. Petrova allowed herself a small smile in return. I don't think any of us expected to make history when we signed up for the reserves, sir. History has a way of finding the most unlikely heroes, Sergeant, Maxwell replied. You're all being promoted, by the way, and offered commissions in the Unified Aerospace Corps if you're interested. Later, as they left the Pentagon and stood looking out over the Washington skyline, now dotted with new defensive installations and the construction of what would become the Planetary Defense Headquarters, Carter turned to Petrova. Do you ever wonder what happened to them? The aliens. Every day, she admitted. But I suspect they're wondering about us a lot more. Grand Admiral Theron stood solemnly before the Xylar Supreme Council, the 9 most powerful leaders of their interstellar civilization. The circular chamber was designed to intimidate, with the council members elevated on high platforms, their bioluminescent patterns perfectly synchronized in a display of unity and authority. Grand Admiral, spoke the Supreme Counselor, her patterns a commanding gold. You stand before us to explain an unprecedented action, the abandonment of a conquest operation and withdrawal from Target System 7. Explain your reasoning. Theron's patterns remained steady, showing neither fear nor uncertainty. Supreme Counselors, I will present the complete record of our encounter with the species of Planet 7, designated humans. After reviewing this evidence, I believe you will agree that my decision, while unorthodox, was strategically sound. For the next hour, Theron methodically presented everything. The initial engagement with Sirius-9, the capture intelligence, the interrogation recordings, and the observations of Earth's rapid military mobilization following the battle. Our projections, he concluded, indicated a protracted, costly conflict with uncertain outcome, a type of conflict the Alliance has wisely avoided throughout our expansion. The humans possess a dangerous combination of technological adaptability, military readiness, and most concerning, psychological resilience in the face of superior forces. The council members' patterns shifted through various colors as they processed this information. Finally, the Supreme Counselor spoke again. Your assessment is disturbing but appears well-founded. Intelligence Officer Kale and Tactical Commander Lyra have separately submitted reports that support your conclusions. Another council member, his patterns a skeptical orange, interjected, but can we accept being deterred by a single primitive planet? What message does this send to our existing subject worlds? With respect, Counselor, Theron replied, I believe the question is whether we can afford the resources required to subdue this particular world. Our empire expanded efficiently by targeting vulnerable planets. Earth is not vulnerable in the conventional sense. Defeating it would require commitment of over 60% of our military assets for an estimated minimum of 3 standard cycles, with projected casualties exceeding anything in our recorded history. The Council conferred in private for several minutes, their patterns synchronized in rapid communication. When they returned their attention to Theron, the Supreme Counselor delivered their verdict. The withdrawal is retroactively approved. Earth is to be reclassified as an Omega-level threat. Approach with extreme caution. All conquest plans are suspended indefinitely. She paused, her patterns shifting to a more contemplative blue. We will explore alternative approaches. Long-range observation. Perhaps, in the distant future, diplomatic contact when we better understand their psychology. A wise decision, Supreme Counselor, Theron acknowledged, his own patterns showing relief. There is one more matter, added another council member. The military personnel who survived the encounter with these humans, many are experiencing what our psychologists term combat trauma. They speak of the humans with a mixture of fear and respect that borders on superstition. Some are calling them the demons of the coastline or the militia of nightmares. The psychological impact cannot be underestimated, Theron agreed. I recommend specialized counseling for all personnel involved in the Earth engagement and careful management of information to prevent panic among the general population. Approved, the Supreme Counselor concluded. This session is adjourned. Grand Admiral Theron, you will oversee the establishment of a remote observation post at the edge of their solar system. We will watch this species carefully. They have revealed themselves to be far more dangerous than their technological level would suggest. After the council session, Theron found Lyra and Kale waiting in the antechamber. Their patterns showed the Xylar equivalent of anxious anticipation. "The Council has approved our assessment," Theron informed them. "Earth is now classified Omega level." Kale's patterns brightened with relief. A rational decision. The data was unambiguous. "What happens now?" Lyra asked. "We observe, we learn, and we prepare. Not necessarily for war, but for a future where humans may expand beyond their world." Theron's patterns shifted to something between concern and respect. "They may be the first species we've encountered who could genuinely challenge us, or eventually join us," Kale suggested. "If properly approached." "A problem for another day," Theron replied. "For now, I've been tasked with establishing the observation post. Both of you will assist me. Your first-hand experience with humans makes you invaluable to this project." As they walked toward the military planning center, Lyra's patterns flickered with a question. "Do you think they know how close they came to total defeat? If we had committed our full forces initially, before understanding what we faced?" "Perhaps," Theron mused, "but I suspect they're thinking the same about us. The difference is they were right." 1 year after the alien encounter, Sergeant, now Captain, Anna Petrova stood at the observation deck of the newly commissioned UPDF Armstrong, Earth's first true space warship. Below her, the blue-white curve of Earth contrasted sharply with the endless black of space. The ship hummed with activity as the multinational crew prepared for its maiden voyage to Mars, where the first off-world military base was under construction. "Quite a view, isn't it?" said a familiar voice. Corporal, now Lieutenant, Ben Carter joined her at the viewport. "Better than our old observation post on the coast." Petrova smiled. "Just a bit. How's the communications system performing?" "The hybrid tech is working better than expected," Carter replied. "We've integrated some of the principles from the Xylar quantum communication system. Still not as advanced as theirs, but light years ahead of where we were a year ago." Private First Class, now Lieutenant, Maya Singh approached, tablet in hand. "Captain, the weapons diagnostics are complete. The energy targeting systems are at 98% efficiency." "Good work, Lieutenant," Petrova nodded. "Is Dr. Lawrence finished with the shield calibrations?" "Just about. He says the reverse-engineered shield technology is still only a fraction as powerful as what the Xylar demonstrated, but it's improving with each iteration." Petrova turned back to the viewport, gazing out at the stars. "A year ago, we were a part-time coastal patrol unit with outdated rifles. Now we're on humanity's first warship, preparing to establish a presence throughout our solar system. All because we got our asses kicked by the right aliens at the right time," Carter said, with a wry smile. "We didn't just get our asses kicked," Petrova corrected him. "We made them work for it. We made them think twice. And in doing so, we bought humanity the time it needed." "Do you think they're still out there?" Singh asked quietly. "Watching us?" "I'm sure of it," Petrova replied. "And I'm equally sure that we'll meet them again someday. The question is whether that meeting will be as enemies or as equals." A voice came over the intercom, all senior officers to the bridge, preparing for departure sequence. As they turned to leave the observation deck, Petrova took one last look at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Xylar were watching, perhaps with the same mixture of fear and respect that humans now viewed the cosmos. The universe had suddenly become much smaller and much more complicated, but also in its way more hopeful. If a small coastal recon unit could change the course of an interstellar invasion, then perhaps humanity's future among the stars wasn't predetermined after all. "Come on," she said to her companions. "We've got work to do." Lyra and Kale stood on the observation deck of the remote monitoring station at the edge of Sol System. The station, cloaked and protected by the most advanced stealth technology in the Xylar arsenal, had been gathering data on Earth for the past 2 years. "They've progressed faster than our models predicted," Kale noted, reviewing the latest intelligence on a holographic display. "They've established a permanent presence on their moon and Mars. Their space technology has advanced by nearly a century in just 2 years. Much of it derived from studying fragments of our technology," Lyra added. "The adaptability is remarkable and concerning." The display shifted to show Earth's newly established orbital defense platforms and a growing fleet of spacecraft, still primitive by Xylar standards, but progressing at an alarming rate. The Supreme Council was right to classify them as Omega level, Kale said. At their current rate of advancement, they could become a regional power in space within a single generation. And yet, Lyra mused, they've made no attempts at aggressive expansion. Their lunar and Martian bases appear primarily scientific and defensive in nature. For now, Kale cautioned, they remain unified by the threat we represented. As that memory fades, their internal divisions may resurface. Or they may find a new unifying purpose, Lyra countered. Exploration, discovery, perhaps even peaceful contact with other species. Including us? Kale's patterns registered skepticism. Eventually, when both sides are ready, they fell silent, watching the holographic representation of Earth rotating slowly before them. A small blue world that had delivered the Xylar Alliance its first true strategic setback in centuries. Do you ever think about them? Lyra asked suddenly. The three humans we captured, Petrova, Carter, and Singh. Frequently, Kale admitted, our intelligence indicates they've become important figures in Earth's new unified defense force. They were formidable in their way. Part-time soldiers, Lyra said, her patterns shifting to a hue that indicated something between amusement and respect. Who would have thought? As they continued their observation, a small alert appeared on the display. One of Earth's new deep space probes had been launched, aimed toward the outer planets of their system. Soon, inevitably, humans would push beyond their solar system and into the wider galaxy. And when they did, the Xylar would be watching, wondering if their next encounter would bring war or peace, and remembering how a single small unit of part-time soldiers had changed the course of interstellar history. In the vast silence of space, two civilizations prepared for their next meeting. One advancing with remarkable speed from its single world, the other reconsidering its place in the cosmos after an unexpected lesson in humility. The stars watched impassively, indifferent to the dramas of mortal beings, yet somehow made more brilliant by the promise of what might come next.